Get started here in about 2 minutes or so. We're going to let some folks trickle in. Great to see some familiar names. Appreciate everybody carving out time. We're going to get started in 2 minutes or so. And as we wait for some folks to trickle in here, as always, feel free to post in the chat, ask any questions as we demo Hopskip. If there's an opportunity to answer them live, we'll make sure we do so. If we don't get to them live, we'll make sure that they get answered. And there will be a recording too sent out to all registrants, most likely early next week. All right, we're going to get started here in just about 2 minutes, guys. Or excuse me, 1 minute now. All right, we're going to get started in about 1 minute, guys. Get started here soon. All right. All right, guys, let's get started. I'm going to be respectful of everybody's time. For those of you who don't know me, my name's Sean. I'm one of the co-founders and CEO of Hopskip. Today's session is going to be providing an overview, a walkthrough of the Hopskip platform. We'll go over some core features of ours, and then we'll also make sure that we have time, for questions. So as I mentioned earlier, feel free to post questions in the chat. If we don't get to those questions during the session live, we'll make sure that they get answered. Some of the bigger rock features that we want to make sure that this group is aware of exists on Hopskip and how to use them would be, creating the RFP from a template is a little bit different now in our new user interface versus the old interface. We're also going to be sharing some of the newer features that we've just recently launched around branded presentations and making sure that you know how to access and communicate the cost savings dashboard for your bookings. If there's any questions, like I mentioned, throughout the day, or throughout the session, just enter them in the chat. And like I said, we'll try and answer them live. And if we don't, we will make sure that we get to them after the recording. I'm going to share my screen now, and I'm going to show you how the new user interface works on Hopskip. Give me a second here. All right. Perfect. Can everyone see my screen? All right, awesome. So background refresher, Hopskip over the last, let's call it 4 or so months, we just launched a new user interface on Hopskip, meaning Hopskip still does all of those great things that you initially were interested in Hopskip doing, but now it looks a little bit more modern and there's different placement of different buttons throughout. So I want to make sure too, how to, for example, access your planner toolbox, because that's a little bit different in today's Hopskip versus how it was in the previous version. But your RFP dashboard remains the same, right? This is your command center. This is the first page that you land on when you log into Hopskip. You're going to still have each one of these cards representing a different RFP. You're going to have these column labels representing a different stage in the sourcing process. You can now view your RFPs in a table format versus just a card view. You can download any of your RFP data by clicking this download button. And then for the planners that are on the call today that have larger teams, you can also filter your RFP dashboard now by RFP owner. So if you want to just be able to look at the RFPs that you currently own, or if you're a manager and want to look at the RFPs across all of your planner teammates, you could do so as well. You'll see all the way to the far right your recent activity. So this is where across all your RFPs, we will share the major milestones of activities that have taken place. And then you'll have some metrics at the top of your dashboard and some notifications around overdue responses or overdue RFPs for a selection. You'll still have the ability to understand if you have any unread messages or proposals. And this new feature actually just launched a couple weeks ago, which is more of an enhancement of your previous activity timeline or notification timeline, but this is going to provide you with a little bit more detail of any unread messages that you might have across all of your RFPs. Before we jump into the RFP process, let's jump into the planner toolbox. Now, this is slightly different than what the old Hopskip interface entailed. So you're going to have RFP elements. Think about RFP elements as reusable sections of your RFP. So as you know, you have the ability to add all your questions that you typically like to ask during the RFP process. To add a question, you would click Add New, enter that question. You could specify the format in which you want to receive the answer to that question. You could also set it up to automatically be included in all new RFPs by turning that toggle on. From here, you can see concessions is next. So just like in your old Hopskip toolbox, you'll have the ability to add all of your concessions that you typically request during the RFP process. To add a new concession, simply just click Add New, put a category to that concession, and then you would enter that concession. Click Save. From there, it's going to appear on this table. You can then set up that concession to automatically be included. If you wanted to delete any concession or question, you'll be able to do that easily by clicking the delete button. But this allows you to be able to reuse these elements really efficiently. And that's how planners using Hopskip save even more time and stay even more organized. The next section of the toolbox is your contract clauses. This is where on Hopskip, a lot of our planners, they have contract language that they typically want included in the agreement with the hotel. So to add a new clause, you just click Add, enter the title, enter the body of the clause, click Add, and then that contract clause will appear in this table. Just like with every other element, you can set it up to automatically be included in all new RFPs. Since I'm not the owner of this planner organization, I can't actually enable it, but if I was, I would be able to. And then lastly, decline reasons. I'll just be real brief here. As you know, you have the ability to, well, let me back up. Every time a planner declines a hotel's proposal, we ask you to provide a reason why. So these reasons are customizable for you to be able to specify what makes sense to your organization on why you're turning down hotels' proposals. That allows you then to be able to trend that information over time. All right. Templates. So a lot of the planners that use Hopskip today, they have clients that have reoccurring events, or they have reoccurring events in their organization. So they'll create an RFP template from an existing RFP. Those templates will live in your template section of the toolbox. And then when you're getting ready to source for that upcoming event, for that reoccurring event, you're just simply pulling this information right from the template, and your RFP creation process is pretty much done as soon as you start. Lastly, or not lastly, next, I should say, industry contacts. So in your toolbox, the new toolbox, you'll have a contact section. That contact section is broken out into two different contact types: industry contacts and hotel contacts. Industry contacts on Hopskip relates to your DMO or CBB contacts, your national sales or global sales, and any affiliates like an Alhi or Teneo. All of those contacts would live in this tab. To add a new contact, you simply just click Add, enter that information. You can, just like with any element, set this up to be included in all new RFPs, and then you're good to go. The hotel contacts is where if you have a relationship with a hotel property level sales contact, you essentially want to be able to in the future specify that you want that individual or that contact to be the recipient of your RFP. This is where you would add them. Lastly, collections and notes. So on Hopskip, you have the ability to create collections of hotels. Think of that as like a list of hotels. That could be, anything from my favorite convention hotels to my favorite resort or incentive hotels. These collections are, just visible to you and your team. Same thing with notes. So this is where a lot of planners on Hopskip, they want to be able to document notes around any given property. This is where those notes would be stored. When we get into the RFP process and we're in the add hotels phase, I'll show you how you can also access those notes or document those notes. But this is where, for example, if teammate A wants to understand how this resort has done in the past for their organization, and teammate B has documented those notes in the past, they can just come in here and see a running list of their notes and dive deeper into any specific hotel's notes. All right, now let's head to the RFP process. So to start the RFP process, same way as in our legacy Hopskip, you click the Create RFP button. Hopskip's going to ask you, firstly, how do you want to create this RFP? Would you prefer to create new, which is going to be starting with a blank RFP, or do you prefer to use the template? Now, if you created a template and you have one saved in your toolbox, you would just select from a template, and then from there, you can further specify the information you want included in the RFP. But for the sake of this demo, let's say create new. I want to put a name to this RFP, and we're going to hit create. I'm going to be brought into a blank RFP. Hopskip now in the new user interface, when you're building the request, has horizontal tabs versus in the old version, we had just vertical tabs. So this request details is where you're going to add additional information for your RFP. The general tab is where you're going to add some high level information like when you need responses back, when you're going to be estimating the decision to be made. For the group type, we're going to say it's corporate. For the event type, we'll say it's an incentive. And for the industry type, we're going to say it's in the construction industry. And as I complete enough information on each tab, I'll see that red exclamation mark change to a green check mark because not all fields are required. The dates tab is where you're going to specify or request proposals for a date range or date ranges. Let's say for the sake of this demo, we're going to say the 12th through the 15th of January, we want to request proposals for, but we also want to request proposals for the 19th to the 22nd. I can then further specify my dates requirements by saying this date is preferred over that date. I can allow hotels to suggest alternate dates, and then I can even indicate if I have any flexibility in my pattern. I'm going to go to our room blocks tab, which is where I'm going to specify the details of the room block requirements. So as you know, Hopskip, as you enter in information, will highlight the peak rooms night. So we're going to say, we need 150 rooms night 1, 150 rooms night 2, 250 night 3. Let's add another room type and say we need single rooms. And we're going to say 50, 50, and 50. I could specify the payment method here for the block. I could also add further details about any specific room. So by clicking this arrow, you're able to put in a budget. So we'll say budget is 250. And then I can also add any notes. I'm going to click save. And now I can add another room type if I'd like. I can edit the full block if I like, but for the sake of this demo, we know we have enough information required because our green check mark is showing. So I'm going to continue to my event space. Hopskip, as you know, organizes your event space requests by day. So to add a room to day one, I'm just going to click add room to day one. I'm going to say this is our general session. We're going to need this in conference layout. Needs to hold 250 people. Hopskip will estimate the square footage needed based on the room layout and number of attendees. You can override this number. So let's say you know you're going to have some hefty AV requirements, and you know that's going to take up an additional 4,000 square feet, for example. You have full control to override that. Your F&B you can add to this room. So if you, let's say you need coffee service, right, for 250 people, you can do that easily. Add any notes. I could add as many F&B items as I need per room. If I want to share any general attachments like a room layout or add any general notes, I can do so here. I'm going to click save, and now that room's going to be added. You're able to tell at a glance too, from the detail standpoint, which details have been added to this room, so I can see F&B is required here. Now let's say I need this room for all days of our meeting. Instead of building it out line by line, I just click copy to all following days, and now it's built. So this is how planners on Hopskip can create pretty complex agendas in a short period of time. Contract terms. This is all standard information that most of you are probably very familiar with. So this is where you're going to specify things like the reservation method, the payment method. We're going to say for AV, F&B, and meeting space, all build and master. Your point of contact will pre-populate here. So your contact information as the planner is already done in the planner point of contact. The contract signer information we're going to enter here. Give me a sec. We'll say the contract signer is Sam Jones, director. All right. And as you probably already can see, green check mark, meaning we provided enough information. So I'm going to keep moving through the request builder. The contract clauses section is actually done for me because I set up my toolbox to automatically include this specific clause. I could add another one if I'd like. Let's bring in our force majeure from our toolbox. Now that's added. Our questions tab is already done for me because I've set up my toolbox to always have these 3 questions being asked in all new RFPs. Can add a new one if I'd like. Can edit or delete any existing. My concessions tab is already done for me. So these 5 concessions are already being requested because I set up my toolbox to automatically have these concessions included in all new RFPs. Program info. This is where planners can add some supplemental information around the group or event profile. They're able to document success criteria or deal breakers. Can also share any program history. A lot of the planners that use Hopskip will typically share 3 to 5 years of history, which, as you all know, I'm sure, allows the hotel to provide the most competitive proposal possible. And then lastly, the last section of the request details is where you can share any documents, upload any attachments that might live outside the RFP standard information. Your hotel preferences tab is where planners that are not interested in hand or searching for hotels themselves and hand pick hotels from search. They don't want to do any of that, let's say, and they want to include a national sales or a CVB contact to suggest hotels. So this is where you would provide that extra criteria for those contacts to be able to have so that they can make suggestions that match your RFP. For the sake of this demo, though, I'm going to show you actually how to add hotels. So we're going to skip hotel preferences, and I'm going to search for a random city. You can type in a city, landmark, location, hotel name, address, whatever you would pretty much search on Google, you could search here. I just searched Austin. I'm looking at hotels in Austin, right? I can add a hotel easily to my RFP by just clicking add. I'm going to double click into the Otis, and I can see additional details and information about the property. Things like star rating, awards and recognition, rooms and event space summary, any restaurants that the property may have, proximity to airport. I'll also see meeting space details. So I'll understand capacity charts. I'll be able to also add a hotel to a collection or a list right from here. And then I could see any notes that, one of my team members have documented around this property. Let's add a few more hotels to our RFP. I'm going to go back. Let's say we want to get these hotels, this one, and these. Okay, so now I have 6 hotels added to my RFP. My RFP has not yet been sent. I'm going to go to my Manage Contacts tab, which is where I can include any of those CVB, DMO, NSO, GSO, or affiliate contacts. And you can include these contacts on Hopskip to do one of 2 things. The first would be just, let's say you handpicked hotels and you want those contacts to support you for those handpicked hotels, meaning they're going to monitor and manage and help nudge the hotels that fit into their portfolio to submit proposals for your RFP. And or you could also include these contacts to suggest hotels. So what that means is they're going to receive your RFP criteria. They're going to log into Hopskip in their own interface and be able to start suggesting properties based on your RFP criteria. And you'll see those properties appear in your proposal tracker as they begin responding and submitting proposals. The reason why this planner has these 5 contacts actually already displayed in this table is because she set up her toolbox to automatically either include these contacts, and when I'm handpicking hotels, Hopskip is smart enough to be able to recognize, okay, you've set up this contact to always be included. You've chosen a hotel that falls within that contact portfolio. So let's add them to your RFP automatically. You can, of course, then remove them, which is done on this tab. Lastly, send RFP. So this is where you get a summary of your request, who it's going to, key dates involved. If everything looks good, I'm going to click send RFP. Hopskip's going to ask me to confirm a few details. The first is, what level of contact information do I want to share with the hotel sales team? Some planners don't want to share their email or phone number and want to keep it all on the platform. Completely up to you. I'm going to keep these unchecked and I'm going to click send. So now my RFP is sent to the other side of the platform where real hotel sales folks are beginning to get notified that they have a new RFP. It's going to mention your name, your company name, the RFP name, and an RFP code. And they're going to click a button that says go to Hopskip. They're going to, once they click that button, jump right into Hopskip to begin reviewing and responding to your request. And what it looks like as you start receiving responses is similar to this. So as you start to receive responses, or actually even before that, as you send the RFP and hotels begin to review it, you're going to get informed that a hotel has started to review your request. So one of the things Hopskip really tries to pride itself on is transparency throughout the entire process. So you'll know every step of the way where your request is and for which hotel. Once you send it off and you're starting to receive proposals, you're going to jump back into Hopskip and land on your proposal tracker. Your proposal tracker is where you're able to track responses across all of your requested hotels for this given RFP. So I can see, this planner has requested 32 hotels. She has 18 proposals submitted. I could see my response rate. I could see a timeline of any of these properties. I'm going to jump into, let's call it the Westin Arlington proposal by clicking the view proposal button. I'm now able to see the details of this given hotel's proposal. First page, I'm going to see a summary and a timeline of activity. So I can follow along every single step of the way of how this RFP traveled from me clicking send all the way through a proposal getting submitted. My financials tab is going to give me an estimate of total spend. So I'll see across the top what my projected spend looks like. And then I'll see beneath that a breakdown between sleeping rooms, meeting space, and food and beverage if that was requested. Your room block tab. So this is actually a new section of the proposal on Hopskip. So you'll be able to see now details around the room rates. You'll be able to understand the room rate per room type per day, which is something that like a month ago in Hopskip, you wouldn't be able to do. I could also filter this toggle the views between looking at the rooms versus the rates as well. And I could take any detailed notes on any given Hopskip proposal. And these detailed notes are 1, internal only, and 2, will populate in certain reports that you can export and share on Hopskip that I'll get into here in just a few minutes. My meeting space tab is going to show me where the different meeting rooms that I requested are being assigned or proposed from the property. I'll understand things like the meeting room name, capacity, whether or not it has columns, square footage. My questions tab is going to provide me with the answers to those questions that I asked in my RFP. My concessions tab is going to show me whether or not those concessions that I requested have been approved or declined. My contracts tab is going to show me those contract clauses that I requested to have included in the agreement, whether or not that they've been acknowledged by the hotel. And one specific thing I want to call out on the acknowledgement piece. So Hopskip does not ask the hotel to approve or decline the clause at the time of submitting a proposal. What the hotel is doing by acknowledging it is saying, I'm agreeing to have a conversation with you around this specific clause or term, if indeed we make it, to the short list or negotiations. Because we don't want to put up friction or barriers for proposals. And we also want to make sure you have the ability to communicate this information as early on in the process as possible. And then lastly, any documents or attachments that the hotel might have shared with you would be found here that live outside of proposal details. You can download any hotel's proposal to a PDF on Hopskip as well. You can also shortlist any proposal for any given RFP as well. And where shortlisting on Hopskip comes into play is if you have a shortlist created, you can then, when you're getting ready to export reports, filter all of those proposals to just be hotels on my shortlist included in the reports. So it's a way for you to be able to really consolidate and aggregate the information you want displayed. The next tab of your RFP is your proposals dashboard. So this is where, just like we looked at earlier, statuses across all of the hotels that were requested, this is where you can compare financials across all of the proposals. So you'll see here, right, we have 18 proposals ready for review. This planner requested multiple date ranges for proposals. So as of right now, I'm seeing, 2 rows for, let's call it, and this isn't even actually on the screen, but like 2 rows for the DoubleTree, right? And that's because I requested 3 dates. The DoubleTree bid or proposed 2 different date ranges. So I could filter my results simply by clicking on the date range. I could show all of them if I'd like as well. And what this table is going to show you is your total estimated spend. So if I were to scroll, I see all the way to the far right, that total projected cost for each and every proposal. Oh, lastly, let me call this out. So comparable hotels. This specific RFP doesn't have any comparable hotels provided, but what this is you'll have the ability, once you start receiving proposals, to understand hotels that are comparable to the other hotels that you've already requested, and you would then have the ability to formally include them in your RFP. The hotels that are going to be listed here have not received your request or don't have any of the details, but what they're saying is, I have availability, and Hopskip is saying that these hotels are very similar to the hotels that you're already interested in. Your chat messaging tab is where you can communicate message in real time with any of your RFP contacts. So when I mentioned earlier, you have 2 new messages, for example, this would bring you into this. So this is where today you have the ability to message with an affiliate, an NSO, a hotel contact, a DMO or CVB. You'll get an email notification if you're not online when that message comes in. And you also get notified on your dashboard for any unread messages. You can also today on Hopskip message multiple contacts with one message. So that becomes super helpful if you need to send out a mass message to these 10 hotels on your RFP. Okay, now let's go to the report section of the RFP. I'm going to pull up a different RFP to go through reports. So just bear with me 1 second here. Let's, sorry, mouse is acting a little funky. We go to this one. So as you all know, or I assume most of you know, on Hopskip, you have a wide range of different reports available to you on your reports tab. You can see, we have over 10 different reports that planners really seem to like. One of which is definitely our fan favorite, hotel proposal comparison, as well as the PowerPoint presentation. So let's start with the comparison, and I already have one downloaded. To download the report, I should call that out. You just click this download button right here. I'm going to open up this report and just quickly show you what it entails. Give me a sec here, and then we'll go through the PowerPoint, as I know that's also a fan favorite. So, this is a bad example. We'll still go through it though, because it will get the point across. This is a proposal comparison report. The reason why this this report's only showing one property is because for this RFP that I'm displaying right now has actually been contracted with this given hotel. So you would typically find in these reports anywhere between 5 and 30 hotels across the top, with the key data points from the proposal and from the property profile displayed side by side. So you'll see, for example, here, rates inclusive of taxes and fees for each date range. You'll see the answers to your questions and concessions from each hotel. And then you'll also see whether or not the hotels acknowledge your contract language. You'll also see and have the ability to customize this, how your meeting space proposal compares from each hotel. So you'll understand, just like in the details of the proposal, the meeting room name, square footage, etc. Let's now also go to the PowerPoint presentation. And actually, before we leave the comparison report, something that I'm finding a lot of planners aren't aware of that they can do is edit the comparison report before they download it. So by clicking that little pencil icon, I now have the ability to include or exclude certain sections from the report before downloading. Let's go to the PowerPoint presentation, which I think I already have one downloaded. So let me pop this open. And what this report is, it is a presentation of all of the proposals, or the proposals that you want included, in a client ready or stakeholder ready presentation format. Today, it's in PowerPoint. We will be coming out and launching very soon this to be exported in, let's call it Google Slides or Canva. One of the other things we're also doing with this presentation is creating it on a web page. So you'll have the ability to soon share it via a URL as well. But this is going to come out in your company's branding, colors, logos, etc. You'll have a request overview slide. You're going to have a sourcing summary slide, which is going to show you a summary of the hard efforts that you put in to get to this proposed hotel for the group. You'll have, and let me actually pull up a better example here, a shortlisted property slide, which today on Hopskip, as I mentioned, you have the ability to shortlist any given hotel. The shortlisted hotels will appear on that slide. So let me just pull up, give me 1 second, and I can show you what that slide looks like, because I think it's important that I do. All right, I got it right here. And this is what it looks like. And this is actually the newest version too. So you'll have, a cover slide, a request overview slide, which is going to be taken from the RFP. You're going to have, like I mentioned earlier too, details around your locations, group, pattern, agenda, that sourcing summary slide. And then you'll also have, of course, this one doesn't have it either. I'm going to pop open another one, a matrix that's going to show you the shortlisted properties and a comparison of those key data points from those proposals of those properties. So let me pull that open here. Now, this is a new slide too that you're going to see here. This is the ability to share with your clients or your stakeholders properties that you reviewed, but you considered unfit. So any hotel that you declined essentially will display in this table. All right. Third time, hopefully, is a charm here. There's another. Okay, never mind. I do want to share that though, because I think it's important to show. Here we go. So this is a new slide that you're going to have available in this deck. This is going to show you, like I mentioned earlier, side-by-side comparison of the different proposals that you received for your RFP. So you'll be able to put this in a matrix format. And this is essentially like a condensed version of what the comparison report looks like today. This has been like suggested by many planners over the last year or so. So we're going to be actually launching this early next week, and any feedback is of course always welcome. After you have these slides, right, the request overview, the destination sourcing summary, the shortlisted properties, you're going to then go into the details of the proposals that you have received. So each slide, or excuse me, each hotel will have a cover slide with the name. You'll have a profile overview slide. And then you're also going to have a proposal summary slide for each and every hotel. And then it will following that, you'll also have a pros and cons slide for that specific proposal. And how this gets generated is from those proposal notes that I showed you earlier that you can access with inside any given proposal. And then it will repeat for every shortlisted property that you have included. So I won't go through all of these because it's just repeats, but essentially at the end, you'll have this next step slide, which again, you can customize anything that you export out of Hopskip. You'll be able to further customize the content in the PowerPoint presentations on Hopskip very soon, but it will all be exported under your company's logo, colors, branding, all that good stuff. Your last slide will be a company overview of your company. And how that gets populated is from your organization profile on Hopskip, which can be found by clicking your initials in the top right corner and clicking My Organization. So now let's say we're ready to make a decision. We presented to our stakeholders and clients, ready to move forward with the booking. I am going to award the hotel this booking. So let me jump into a proposal. And how to do that is in the proposal details. So let's jump into this one. I'm going to click Begin Contracting. Hopskip's going to ask, how do I want to move forward with the other proposals? I may want to keep them open or decline all of them in one full swoop. Completely up to you. I would then select the reason. Let's say I want to decline all of them. And then I click Confirm. At this point in time, once you click Confirm, your RFP status is going to change from receiving proposals to contracting. And what happens at this point in time is Hopskip's going to send a notification to the hotel that you've awarded the business. Your status is now changed from receiving proposals to contracting. Today, the contract is actually executed outside of Hopskip. We're going to be introducing a feature that's going to give the planner the option to facilitate the contracting through Hopskip. But today it's done outside. Planners will come back in to the platform, typically and mark their contract as signed and upload their executed contract. So it's attached to their sourcing record. From there, you're going to have this dashboard that gets populated, your cost savings dashboard, which is enables you, let's say, to be able to report on cost savings that you generated for this specific booking. And how cost savings is made up on Hopskip, think of it as like two major inputs. The first would be any concessions that you got approved that have a dollar value associated with them. The second would be any negotiated savings that you were able to achieve from proposed to contracted rates. You might be wondering, how does Hopskip get that information? One of two ways. Hotels can go in and update their proposal at any given time after they've submitted it. But you also have the ability, as the planner, the quarterback of the process, to be able to add your contracted rates, which will then populate this dashboard. And to do so, you just click the Edit Rates button in the top right corner. All right. So we've awarded the booking. We have our cost savings. The planner looks like a superstar. And at this point, we want to know, we just achieved really great performance for that RFP, but how are we doing at a company level, at an organization level? You can find that out by clicking the Reports and Analytics icon all the way to the left in the blue navigation sidebar, which is where you're going to be able to access 4 major dashboards. So these dashboards, like I mentioned, are at the company level, not the RFP level. So if I wanted to understand, for example, over the last year or so, what does my bid history look like? How many RFPs have I sent? How many proposals have I received? What's my typical or average response rate or bid rate looking like? Where am I getting the best proposals across destinations? All of my history is also exportable and can be found right in this bid history dashboard. Our next dashboard that I want to make sure that you guys know exists is the bookings dashboard. A lot of planners have asked for this over the years, so we built it. It's a way for you to be able to track at a company level all of the bookings that you generated on Hopskip, for your organization or for your clients. So you'll see things like, total business booked, average booking value, time to contract, total bookings. You'll see by location. You'll also be able to see by chain, by destination. And just like with all of your data on Hopskip, you can export this data to Excel. You can further customize too the data points that you want displayed on the dashboard by clicking this table icon. And then of course you can filter by specific date range or timeline. You can also filter by things like, okay, I just want to see this data by Marriott, or I just want to see my booking performance across RFPs that only have guest rooms requested. Soon, we're going to be adding to these dashboards the ability to filter by client. The last dashboard that I'll show you here is your cost savings. So we just looked at earlier in the demo, your RFP cost savings dashboard, which is measuring cost savings at the RFP level. This is a dashboard that rolls up all of those cost savings dashboards at the RFP level to the company level. And this is where you're able to see how much cost savings you generated across your entire company, across all of your RFPs and all of your team members. Again, you could filter this by timeline, owner. You can also look at like savings, whether it was a concession savings or it was a negotiated savings. And again, all of your data is exportable in this table down here. Okay, for the sake of time here, we've gotten through the RFP process. We've gone over reporting and analytics at the company level. Let's just quickly go to your organization profile, which is where you can further specify details about your company. And some of the information here in your profile is what populates some of the reports. So I definitely, for those of you are on here that might not have gone into Hopskip over the last, let's call it month-ish, there's some new features here that I totally recommend you spending a few minutes on, like your branding, for example. You'll be able to further specify your company's colors, logo, and then also further specify how you want that information displayed on your reports. You can even specify, the font family that you want to use. On your team management tab is where you're able to invite team members to be included in your organization. You can set those team members up by clicking add member, enter their email. You would then assign them a license from your subscription. And then they also have permission settings. So as the org admin, you have the highest permissions, and then you can dictate whether this planner is an RFP viewer or RFP editor for RFPs that they did not create or own themselves. Default settings. So another important section of your profile, this is where you're going to be able to further customize like your currency, or if you're a commission eligible planner, this is where you can add your IATA number, for example. By doing so, you would then set up your RFPs to always request commission and always include that IATA number that you added. A couple other things that you have available in your profile is like your RFP defaults around attrition, as well as opting in or opting out of receiving comparable hotels. Lastly, subscription and billing. This is where you can find when your subscription started and when your subscription is set to end on Hopskip. Before we wrap up, I'm going to make sure that everyone's aware of this as well, because we get questions about this pretty consistently. So we need to definitely do a better job of making sure planners know this feature is available, which is being able to search and do research on properties, discover hotels before or without having to create an RFP. So to do so, I would just click Start New Search. Let's look at our hotels again in Austin. I'm going to look at these hotels. And instead of clicking the Add to RFP button, you'll have an Add to List button, which is essentially creating a list or collection of hotels that you can then use to generate an RFP in the future. I think that is probably enough for today. That's kind of the end-to-end process around the RFPs, around updating your organization profile, as well as viewing your analytics and reports across your company dashboards. We definitely appreciate everybody carving out time to have this refresher on how Hopskip works. We're going to be coming out with some really cool, innovative features over the next few months, a lot of which were influenced by folks on this call. So definitely keep an eye out in your inbox on some new product launches that we're excited to get out in the wild, and we appreciate everybody's support. I hope everyone has a great rest of your afternoon. Geez, I was going to say morning. And we look forward to seeing you on Hopskip. Thank you so much, guys. Take care.